Happy Friday. Everybody wants to be done with the week, right? Welcome to our info session today on the Student Advisory Council. I'm Kathy Matson, the Director of Student Life at Mount Wachusett Community College. I'm also the president of CCSLA, which is the Community College Student Leadership Association. So if any of you attended the fall conference, that's CCSLA. So we work together, all the community colleges in Massachusetts and Rhode Island work together to provide opportunities for our students to have some leadership training and network with one another. I also was a former Board of Higher Ed student member. I was a voting member 2013 to 2014. So I think highly of SAC and all that it does and the Board of Higher Ed. So I felt that it was important that we really get word out to our students across the state about what SAC is. So we are recording today because we had a number of people that weren't going to be able to make it in person. And we have some presenters and then a lot of people that are just going to be able to answer questions. And I just want to answer any questions anybody has. So I'm going to introduce Stacy Bougie, who is the advisor for SAC.
Hi, good morning or good afternoon. I don't even know where I am this week. Thank you for having me here today. I know some of the people on this screen who have come to some of the meetings. Some of you are new. So in that instance, I am Stacy Bougie. I work for the Department of Higher Education in the Commissioner's Office. My title has changed a few times recently, but I think it's Assistant Commissioner for Organizational Development and Equity. And as part of that role, I'm also the advisor to the Student Advisory Council. I've been in this role for 5 years, and it was a really exciting, I want to just start with, it was a really exciting week for Student Advisory Council. And I know that some of you might have wanted to attend there was a special last minute meeting with the Secretary of Education, the U.S. Secretary of Education, Dr. Miguel Cardona this week, and they specifically reached out on Friday because one of the students who used to participate in Student Advisory Council works in that administration and was like, this is the group of students that you want to talk to, and sat down with a very small group of students. They weren't very clear at the outset, and I don't think they understood that our Student Advisory Council is actually 58 members. So it's every student trustee and every student government president from each of the 29 campuses. And they were like, oh, yeah, we were seeing this much smaller. So for those of you who maybe signed up for that and we had to tell you could no longer come, we hope to create an opportunity to sort of meet with other state leaders later in this year. But what an amazing stage to have this group sort of set on. And I'll kind of describe more to you what Student Advisory Council is. But again, it's the student trustee and student government president from every campus. And I'm just going to share my screen. Can everyone see that? You good?
Yes.
A little bit more about the group. So again, the Student Advisory Council is it's a very unique group. It's a legislatively mandated recommending body of the Board of Higher Education. It's actually established in statute. It's called the Student Advisory Committee under the Mass General Law 15A. The bylaws expanded this group from just the student trustee to the student government president. A lot of other states don't have a governing body that is in statute. So uniquely, you really have a position in Massachusetts to have sort of a voice that's solidified in state statute. And again, it is, you'll hear a lot about the membership. We'll just repeat that a lot. And the major responsibilities of the Student Advisory Council, and again, I hope if you have questions, please just raise your hand, stop me, interject. I'm happy to answer anything as we go along. There's 3 sort of major responsibilities of this group, and one is to elect the Student Board of Higher Education member. So one of the members of the student body actually becomes a voting member on the Board of Higher Education at the state level. So this group, it's the student trustee who gets to vote on that position as per the statute, but it's kind of a huge responsibility. So you get to select for the entire state who's representing you at the board level.
Excuse me, Stacy.
Yeah.
Could you make the print a little bit larger? We have a student that's having difficulty seeing it.
If I do that, does that help? No? Just I do nothing? I could share it. I don't know. I would have to email it to you though. Do you have everyone?
Yeah, I don't know.
Maybe changing the setting of your Zoom to have this screen as the main screen, because I have it in my whole screen of the computer because I have it set like that. Then on top, when you said view, you can change which picture you want to see, if the person talking or the screen sharing.
Right, but it's for every person, right? Yeah, you have to do it on your own.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's.
I don't know. Nikki, do you have any
Try to
advice?
get out of this and see if there's just a way to view it more. It's like zooming.
Unfortunately, I don't. When I try to increase the size of the screen, it shrinks the presentation even more.
Oh,
Yorgo, you have a copy of this. You want to send it to Kathy and see if we can get it to that one person?
yeah. Will that help, Nikki?
Yeah, that would be great. Thank you so much.
Okay. All right.
Can you send me the updated copies, Stacy? 'Cause I think it made a change.
In that case, I'll just, sorry, I forgot I changed it. This is close enough, Kathy. I'll just send it directly.
Okay.
Sorry for the delay.
That's okay.
I guess, hold on.
I think you can even put it in.
I sent it in advance. Right. I didn't even put a subject because I'm just.
That's okay. I'll just go ahead and forward it to you, Nikki.
Thank you.
All right, let me see if I can get back to this. Sorry. I have two versions of this. So I'm like reading one and texting one because again, it's really weird in Zoom. All right.
Still waiting for it to come through, just so you know.
It's the opposite way. Sorry. All right. About that. Sorry. Again, the major responsibilities of this group is to elect the student board member, and then you can make studies, reports, recommendations, just general advocacy on behalf of students' rights, students' needs in any sort of area. And then this group is really meant to sort of maintain that forum for expressing students' views and interests in fostering academic freedom, responsibility, and excellence. So you're really the voice of all students across the state. So it's like the level of, you're almost like a liaison for your campus student body to sort of bring this to the state level student advisory council, who then can bring that voice one level further to the board, to the secretary. And so we're sort of connecting those pieces from your state government to your student trustee all the way up to the top. And the membership is made up of the voting student members. So as I said, student government president, student senate president, or your student trustee. So those are the voting members of this group. Plus any interested student can attend these meetings, can participate. We're not really voting on things all that frequently. So this really is like a conversation, almost like policy development, idea building, collaboration. And then if you are a student government or student senate president or a student trustee who has a super busy schedule, you can designate someone else to attend these meetings on your behalf. As long as you tell us in advance who that person is, they can vote on your behalf, except in that one election for the student board member. So they can have all of your responsibilities, including your vote on this council. So we had one of our members from Framingham for the past few years, Mark Haskell. He is actually the current PR chair of this team. He's been just a designee. He's on student government, but he's not the trustee. He's just a regular student who has been given that designee authority to vote on behalf of his campus. I think he's voting on behalf of the trustee. So it's about engagement, and we want to make it as easy as possible for students to become engaged and to be part of the council so that your voices are here. Then just a little bit about the elected positions. So there are positions on the Board of Higher Education, and then there are our SAC leadership team. And so on the Board of Higher Education, we have a voting student member and 2 student advisors, and I'll explain a little bit more about that on the next page. And then the Student Advisory Council leadership is sort of like your student government. So we have a chair, a vice chair, PR or secretary, and a policy chair for the team, and all of those positions are elected. The Board of Higher Education seat, those seats are elected in the fall, and then we have, in the spring, in April this year, and then in the fall, we do the leadership once your campuses select their student government or student leadership, and you have a trustee and a student government president who can come to these meetings or a designee, and then kind of run for these additional seats. And then in the last year, we updated the Student Advisory Council bylaws to combine that voting student member role with the SAC chair. So if you are elected to be the student voting member on the Board of Higher Education, you're also the chair of this council. It's kind of a big role. There's a lot of responsibility, but we wanted to make sure that the student who is voting on the Board of Higher Education has this sounding board and is actually bringing the student voice. So in the previous model, the chair never had to, the board member never had to show up to a Student Advisory Council meeting ever, but they were voted in to sort of make decisions on behalf of all the students. And so how could you be making those decisions without ever sort of meeting with students, understanding the needs of students? And so we really wanted to make sure that that was represented. And so the Student Advisory Council took that into consideration, voted, updated the bylaws so that we solidified that. Does anybody else, Mari or Yurgo, want to say anything about that? Also feel like you can interject.
Something about what, hon?
Nothing, just if you had, it's okay.
No, I'm paying attention to your presentation. I think it's great. Maybe in the end we can support what you said.
So just going back to those board member positions. So the 3 seats, they rotate. So the board elected position, the voting member rotates between the 3 segments. So this year it is the community colleges who have the vote on the Board of Higher Education. Next year it will be State University and UMass, so it rotates. And then when the student does not have is not in the voting seat, we have 2 other students who are elected to be advisors on the Board of Higher Education. So we want to make sure that all 3 segments are always represented in some way. And while you might not have the vote, the idea is that you're collaborating and making sure all 3 perspectives are on the board. Also, over time, we have made it so the commentary, so at the beginning of each board meeting, the students do have a place on the board agenda to speak at the board meeting. And we make sure, before it used to just be the voting member who spoke, we make sure all 3 members have 2 minutes or so to sort of say anything they need to about the segment or combined remarks. So you all have a chance to sort of have that voice and to be heard. Or if there's a specific issue related to community colleges or State University of Mass that you would bring up separately, unrelated to one another. Also, we just want to make sure the voice is represented. And then this group, your responsibilities are to attend the Board of Higher Education meetings and act as the Student Advisory Council liaisons from the council to the board. And also you would serve on the Student Advisory Council executive team. You don't have to read this. I'll send this separate. This slide is really just much like all of the duties and responsibilities of your own student government associations. The Student Advisory Council positions, which were again the chair, the vice chair, the secretary / PR chair and policy chair. This is the detail, but you don't have to read this slide, and we can send the descriptions after. I just wanted to sort of outline that they each have specific roles on the council, much like your student governments. And so if you're elected or run for one of those positions, you would perform all the duties and functions associated with that position and also serve on the executive team. And then again, we would hope that all of these elected positions are attending the regularly scheduled Student Advisory Council meetings. There's usually 6 per academic year, and we have those the Thursday before each Tuesday's board meeting. And we send the schedule out in June after the board votes on their next year's schedule. And then you would serve as a member of the executive committee and be part of a weekly phone call to work on strategy and move forward any Student Advisory Council goals and help set the monthly meeting agendas. I know there's a lot of work involved in this. And then I'm gonna pass this over to Yurgo just to sort of talk about Advisory Council in action. So all the work this council has done over the years, so much more I'm sure has been done even before then, but I tried to just pull out some recent accomplishments.
Okay, thank you, Stacy. Hi, everyone. My name is Yurgo. I am the Chair Emeritus for the Student Advisory Council, and also I serve the Board of Higher Education, representing the community colleges segment. So I was the chair of SAC from 2019 to 2022, and I recently retired from that because I was there for so long, they had to let me go. So as you can tell from my length of work with the Student Advisory Council, it's been a very huge passion of mine. And as Stacy went through the history of the Student Advisory Council, its mission and membership and what we do, you can understand that the Student Advisory Council is the only official or organized student voice of everyone enrolled in a public higher education institution here in Massachusetts. So it's quite important. The Board of Higher Education, the commissioner, and every other institution that needs student input or on initiatives and any work they have to do in regards to students, they have to consult with the Student Advisory Council. So over the years, we've worked on a lot of projects, starting in 2018 and 2019. The work that the Student Advisory Council did kind of flourished, and then COVID-19 started, but that did not slow us down. So we started with, in 2018, with the resolution on open educational resources to the Board of Higher Education. The resolution presented by the Student Advisory Council to the board is what made the board and the Department of Higher Education start moving on initiatives on the open educational resources. For those of you that are not familiar with what open educational resources are, or short OER, some of the campuses, or most of them, spread information about this continuously, but OER are open license resources or books for students in the public higher education system to be used free of cost. So right now, institutions are trying to implement open educational resources on a wider scale for students to have a more affordable higher education. And we all know how important that is at this point. So Student Advisory Council was one of the agents that made open educational resources a reality. And right now in 2023, we're at the peak of the performance in terms of open educational resources. There's a special fund that deals with open educational resources, the Special Advisory Council, where Student Advisory Council participates in to make this work a reality. Additionally, one of the very important initiatives that the Student Advisory Council launched and made a reality was changing the Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 15A, Section 4, to allow part-time students to serve as a student trustee. So before 2020, only full-time students were allowed to run and be elected as a student trustee. And seeing the change in demographics in community colleges especially, but across all public higher education institutions, the Student Advisory Council realized that allowing only full-time students to run for a trustee was not realistic anymore. There was not a good representation of our student demographics. So we felt the need to launch a legislative campaign in collaboration with the Department of Higher Education and the Board of Higher Education to change the Massachusetts General Law. And this was during COVID, so reaching out to all of the legislators was extremely difficult. You could not knock on their doors anymore. You had to you had to call all of them. And we spent a lot of money on telephone bills at the time to talk about this to all of our legislators. But it was one of the proudest moments because we made the reality in 3 months. Each of the Student Advisory Council members reached out to the legislators, and we included this change in the law as part of the budget at the time. It passed in the House of Representatives, it passed in the Senate, and then at the end of the year, the governor signed it into law. So as is, all students, regardless of their enrollment status, can run to become a student trustee, and we are very, very happy about that. Additionally, the Student Advisory Council worked continuously on budget advocacy for increased financial aid to meet unmet student needs. As you know, the budget is made yearly, and the Department of Higher Education works with the Board of Higher Education to present a budget proposal to the legislature. So the Student Advisory Council has been continuously working with the department to give their input on the budget and make recommendations on how this budget could be adjusted to better serve the students. And additionally, when this recommendation goes from the Board of Higher Education to the legislature, the Student Advisory Council continues its advocacy with their individual legislators, be it House of Representative members or Senate members. And we try to identify certain priorities for the year, communicate those to the legislators, make sure they are aware, and we do our best to make these recommendations be reality. Additionally, one of the biggest things that the Student Advisory Council created last year was the development of an annual statewide campus community building day to bring awareness of student issues and campus climate and equity to all of us. So actually the year before, in 2021, the Student Advisory Council created a resolution in regards to Campus Community Building Day in order to bring the administration, campus police, student leadership, and students themselves into one community. We know that we've had trouble keeping the community together, especially during COVID, that made it even harder. So the Student Advisory Council felt the need to assign one specific day or a certain amount of time, be it a week or more, to bring the community together and remind everyone that it's important to come together and work on these initiatives, of course, to build a better campus climate and promote equity. So last year, in April 6th of 2022, we held our first statewide campus community building day. and we had the Commissioner of Higher Education at the time, Carlos Santiago, join us, President of Quinsigamond Community College, Luis Pedraja, and it was a very successful event. This is actually the first ever statewide student organized event, other than Phenom Campus Advocacy, which students from across the state go to the State House to advocate. The Campus Community Building Day is the first ever student-led event. So it's actually quite important. And making this into an annual event is even more important. So Stacy put in the chat some information about the Campus Community Building Day, and we're trying to make that a reality this year and make it a tradition from year to year. Additionally, the Student Advisory Council partnered with the Department of Higher Education on the 10-year strategic plan for racial equity. I was the chair of the Student Advisory Council at the time when the strategic plan for racial equity started, and I was actually a member of the steering committee that created this plan for racial equity. It's an extremely important plan. We're trying to promote racial equity in any level, in any kind of institution, be it community college, state university, or the University of Massachusetts campuses. And Stacey, if you could put a link to the Department of Higher Ed website where the strategic plan for racial equity is linked, so all of you can look through that. That's extremely important. I want all of you to be aware of the importance of this plan, read through it, and make sure that you refer it to your institutions and tell them, listen, the Department of Higher Ed has set its priorities. It's time for all of us to unite and actually follow the lead and make sure we promote equity in any level and any interaction we can. Next slide, please, Stacey. So as I mentioned, for the open educational resources, this has been one of our biggest initiatives. So our partnership and ongoing work has been to establish OER student ambassadors for each campus to raise awareness with faculty, students, and the administration about the importance of OER. So we actually communicated with the administration, the student life offices, and the student trustees and student government presidents of each campus to have them assign an OER ambassador by campus. So they would be our liaison to communicate important updates on open educational resources and create campaigns to promote awareness of OER and to actually help us implement OER on a wider scale. So for those of you who are in the call and you have not heard of OER on your campus, or you've heard about OER, but you don't know who your OER ambassador is, please ask around, reach out to your student trustee or student government presidents and ask them, do we have an OER ambassador? If you do not, try to work with them and try to identify an OER ambassador, because this is actually really important work. Additionally, as I mentioned, I myself and 2 other members of the Student Advisory Council served on the OER Statewide Advisory Council to bring student voices to the work. We know that this advisory council gathers input from all the stakeholders that are included in the work of OER, but of course, the student voice is the more important. The work we do, the work the council does, is targeted to the students. So our input is extremely important. And we have these avenues to provide our thoughts, our process improvements, all our feedback. So let's use them. Additionally, for OER, we've had the chance to present in conferences and write editorials to raise awareness. Actually, 2 years ago, there was an article that I wrote on the Commonwealth magazine talking about the affordability of textbooks, and talks about the importance of OER in Massachusetts and how we are a leader in the nation in terms of open educational resources. So please make sure to read that information as well. Additionally, we partnered with institutions and participated in the OER Open Education in a week, where we try to organize certain events to promote the importance of OER. And also we had the chance to work on Open Access Week, which is partnering with institutions across the nation, not only across the state, on open educational resources matters.
I want to jump.
Yes.
I want to just I think Cody participated in some of that. I don't know if you're still there and you wanted to say anything about those events. Or your role as a student advisory council member, sort of participating in some of those OER legislative events, or
I would love to eat up everybody's time, Stacy. So I was the ORI ambassador for Mount Wachusett Community College that I played heavily in. I was co-chair for the social media committee. So if you liked any of the SAC posts, or if you followed or told your friends about that, I'm gonna voluntarily take partial credit for every post that came after. But I did set that up, and I worked hand in hand to promote OER Week that happened a few. I also sat on a committee panel that talked a lot about OER and how to go forward. I worked with Dr. Robert Awkward and Yorgo. Nice to see you again, Yorgo. And it was to not only get to a work on such a huge project on such a massive level, such as the state level. And if anybody was thinking of donating on this, not only would you be promoting a really important aspect of college, which is allowing people to freaking learn and not be gated by price, but for personal like development growth, having to work with a team and who were the boss of my boss, it was an experience I definitely want to trade for.
thank you.
Great. Thank you, Cody. Next slide, please. So another really important initiative is the basic needs security. So the Student Advisory Council has been partnering with the Department of Higher Education and participating in the Basic Needs Security Ambassador Program to be an active voice on campus about basic needs security, promote the idea of asking for help, and raising awareness about the Basic Needs Security Program. So Stacey has provided some resources over here about the Basic Needs Security Advisory Committee and the advocacy for the hunger-free campus bill, which are extremely important on these. So this year's Basic Needs Security the statewide campus community building day has a theme about the basic needs security this year. And I would invite Mari to provide some more information on that, since she is heavily involved with this initiative on this year's Student Advisory Council. Mari?
Hi, everyone. Thank you, Garjo. I did pronounce wrong your name. I know I'm terrible on that. English is my second language, then excuse me. Yes, I am the vice chair, and well, Garjo's elaborated a lot in what we've been working on. And this year we have partnered with the Department of Higher Education with the Basic Needs Security and Ambassador Program. And basically is like each campus have student ambassador for basic needs. And this group is meeting weekly and trying to put together a directory or a map. Originally it was a map, but now changed to a directory of resources in campus and local resources for students to have access to fulfill their needs. And if you don't have an ambassador in your campus, please contact us and we will put you in, guide you to the right direction to be part of this program, which is a great initiative this year, to have all the resources in one place, and then students will be more open to ask for help and share their needs. We're trying to avoid the stigma and to have more available on hand those resources and guides for students. We are advocating also for the hunger-free campus bill, and Robert is here, and I think he will be a great person to elaborate on that, since he has been working on this project with a lot of passion. Robert, would you like to elaborate about the hunger-free campus bill?
Yeah, sure. Can everyone hear me? I know sometimes my connection's a little spotty.
Yeah, we
Good.
can.
No, you're great.
Okay. Yeah, there's something called the Hunger Free Campus Bill, and it's been filed in the last couple legislative sessions, but it just narrowly missed getting across the finish line in the unofficial session at the end of 2022. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to get our state legislators, whether it's state senators or state representatives, to sign on as co-sponsors for that. And when we cast a wide net with the Student Advisory Council, because we have campuses all around the state, we can address a really wide group of people. And it's even wider also when you consider that some students don't necessarily live in the same district as where their school is. So we're just trying to get it up to a critical mass to where we can say, hey, look, this is something that has a ton of support and you need to pass this. The nature of the legislative process is such that it probably won't be passed before the expiration of the current Student Advisory Council terms at the end of this school year, just because of the legislative calendar. But we're still pushing for this. And when people co-sponsor it, those names just don't go away. They stay on there. And the whole idea behind the bill, for those of you who don't know, and I can send you more details of the specifics of it, is to set up fundamental resources that the Department of Higher Education will allocate to various schools proportionally that will address the basic needs of food insecurity on campus. And this is a really underappreciated problem around the state, because when you look at scholarships, they cover your tuition. If you're at a residential school, they might cover your room and board, but they don't cover your textbooks. They don't cover if you're a commuter. They don't cover your housing. So all of these things factor into the total cost of attendance and factor into a student trying to decide. And I know a couple people personally that are trying to decide between, do I buy this book so I can pass this course? Or do I put food on the table so that I have proper nutrition to actually succeed in this course? Or proper nutrition for my family, particularly in community colleges. A lot of our students are parents. So we're really trying to bring this to the attention of the state legislators, because most of them have had a college experience that's very different. They went to a traditional four-year school. And so when we talk to a lot of them, they're really surprised about this issue. Our response overwhelmingly has been very positive about this. And we're really, really hoping to get this across the finish. It's a fundamental equity issue. And these problems don't affect everyone equally. When you look at who it affects, it disproportionately affects people of color, people that are otherwise disadvantaged, and it totally aligns with what the Department of Higher Education is pushing for in terms of our equity agenda. So as the Student Advisory Council, we're proud and we're really determined to get this across the finish line. Thanks.
Thank you, Robert and Mari, both of you for sharing your experience. As you can see, all of you, the work that the Student Advisory Council does is extremely important, and we're trying to promote and work on initiatives that we think would be the best for our students and try to serve them in any level, from textbooks to basic needs to funding, and all those initiatives are at the forefront of the work that the Student Advisory Council does. And that concludes this section of the presentation in terms of current initiatives.
Thank you. And I just did want Mari to circle back maybe to the basic needs security, the community building day that I put the information in the chat, since they are
I was
planning.
about to interrupt to say that I wanted to.
I'm just going to hear about experience anyways, as leaders who have participated in this group. So go for it.
So this year we have modified a little bit community building day, and we have changed that to a community building week to give the campuses more wider window to prepare their community building day. So you will have one day from the 3rd to the 7th of April to prepare something meaningful related to the basic needs security. You can do a panel or do a campus cooper or pantry open house, a walk, something that will show support for those students that have basic needs. And the main point of this is to advocate for avoiding a stigma, and that it's okay to ask for help, and that it's okay that everyone at one point of our life will need help, and then the resources are there for you to take advantage of them. So if you haven't heard about this, you still have time to prepare something for your campus, or social media will have the different campuses links to invitations to participate of what other campuses are doing. And like the name said, it's a community building day to bring everyone together to advocate for something that affects all the students in Massachusetts or in United States. I also wanted to add that SAC is a very good opportunity to build your skills, your leadership skills, your advocacy skills. Stacy have put some information also in the chat to make sure to check all those links that have very valuable information. And so yes, and participating in SAC, you will build your skills. You will get the opportunity to make your voice be heard at state level, and like this year for us at a federal level, we will able to raise our concerns to the highest authority we can think of in education. And that experiences will help you for your future and to continue working toward a change. And so get involved. You will learn something more than you think. And Stacy is a great leader, and we are so grateful for have her. And we have learned so much from her that it's just like an amazing experience for everyone. Oh, thank you.
Thanks, Mari. So people have questions, and I see Chloe on here, who also participates frequently in Student Advisory Council. If you have anything to add, you're participating on sort of a project team. Not sure if you have any insights, but if anyone has questions. Kathy, any questions? Clarification?
I just want to make a comment, kind of going on what Robert said about the legislators. And this is what I found when I was a student member on the Board of Higher Ed, 2013 to 2014. I didn't even know what SAC was until a couple months before I was elected. I was new to student government in Massachusetts, and I got elected thinking, okay, I have to say, being on SAC and being the student member on the Board of Higher Ed totally changed my life. Because of that is why I work in higher ed right now. This was not my my career path when I was initially at Massachusetts. But the thing that really struck me the most is when I went to Boston and sat on the board, and I saw all these people. There were so many people that, as Robert said, they had no clue what the experience of a community college student was. Most of them had gone to a 4-year, many private, and they just didn't understand that students in a community college really struggle with everyday basic needs. And that was instrumental in making me want to stay here and make a difference in the lives of students. So this is why I want students to understand how much of an impact they can have by being that voice for other students, by participating in Student Advisory Council, by either being the voting member or the student advisor for your segment, because they do listen. The Board of Higher Ed really does listen, and they take what the students have to say into consideration with everything they do. But when we have, if we don't fill those positions, because Stacy can attest to this, when we have that election in April, it's hard sometimes for us to find people to run for that position. And this is what I said back in the fall at the CCSLA conference. There are 15 community colleges. In April, we should have at least 15 candidates for that student member position or that student advisor position. Every school should be sending at least one candidate forward. But that's not usually the case. But if everybody gets involved and sees that the impact that they can make, maybe we will someday get to that point so that we have that, participation. Mari.
Yes, I wanted to add that you just said something very important to me. And you said that make an impact. So if you're thinking and running for a position and you think, and then you must know that you are going to be a SAC member. And being a SAC member is not just for your for the name to say, oh, I was a SAC member. It's because you really want to make a difference for students. You want to advocate, you want to work, you want to make an impact and continue that SAC continue being that great institution that it is, and that we are here as a committee to help and support our student body and the students and state level. So it's not just that, oh yes, I am part of SAC, is I want to make a difference. That is the important piece that we must not lose the north, that we're here to help and to make a change.
Yeah, I think that's important. I think Yorgo was going to say one more thing just about the experience, unless Robert, and do you have questions, or are you also speaking about the experience?
I was going to speak about the experience, but I think Anna had her hand up first.
I actually have a comment and a question. My name is Anna Berry. I'm the Dean of Students at Greenfield Community College. And I really resonate with what Kathy said about the challenges of getting our rural colleges. But first I want to say thank you to all the student leaders who are here and have done this work. Your work does make an impact beyond the OER. Is the fact that there was a state allocation this year for food security to support positions and the work. And I don't think that would have happened if you hadn't had such a united voice at the state level. So thank you for that. And then my question is, for the students who have been involved, are you willing to make your information public? And maybe it already is, and I just don't know it, so that if we have students who are considering leadership positions, that they would be able to reach out to you and talk directly. They could get coached by somebody doing the work and not the advisors at the college. And then lastly, I'd like to say, if this is legislated work, it would be amazing if we could get to a place where we could pay our students, at the very least, a stipend for their service, because our students are busy, and if, as we've heard over and over again, they don't make enough money or through scholarships, etc., to live on. And any way we can get money in our students' hands is a good way. Thank you.
So hi, Anna. I just wanted to jump in and answer your question. So I want to thank you for the work you do at Greenfield Community College. It has been one of the active community colleges, always participating in SAC meetings, and we really appreciate that. So as Stacy put in the chat, the information for the executive committee of the Student Advisory Council is available in the official website of the Department of Higher Education. But that's only for the current executive team. In case you would like to reach out to me or somebody else that used to serve on the Student Advisory Council, you're more than welcome to. Stacy is a good resource in case you have questions about us, and she can provide you with my contact information at least. We really appreciate that. And since I have the chance to get the floor, I will briefly share my experience with the Student Advisory Council and why it actually is extremely important to be part of it. So I moved from Albania in 2018. So I was an international student myself. When I moved here, I spoke no English. Stephanie Texera was the student government president at Quincy Government Community College at the time, and she told me about the Student Advisory Council, and she's like, why don't you drive with me to this meeting and see what it is? So that's how the whole story started. I joined the meeting. I was a non-voting member of the council, listening through what was going on and offering opinions sporadically. When the term of Stephanie ended at the end of that academic year, she told me, why don't you run for interim chair? So I ran for interim chair during the summer of 2019, and then I was elected as a full chair in the fall. So I started as a non-voting member, and I became the longest serving chair of the Student Advisory Council because I served for 3 continuous years. And it was extremely important for me to be part of the Student Advisory Council, try to share my experience and try to work with the students that really needed a voice at the Board of Higher Education, at the state level, at the Department of Higher Education, and working with all the students, understanding these experiences, accelerating the voice, and being, let's call it, a virtual megaphone for all the students, especially during the COVID-19 times where everything was going south for all of us. We tried to accelerate these voices and make SAC and bring it where it is, and try to advocate on behalf of our students. So please, as Stacy said, not all the students are voting members of the Student Advisory Council, but all the students, regardless of their voting status, they are welcome to share their experiences, bring opinions to the table, work with the Student Advisory Council to make these initiatives move forward. So you are more than welcome to. Student Advisory Council work is important. Your input is extremely important. Your input and your work is what makes the Student Advisory Council what it is, and your work and input is what makes advocacy what it is, and it is what makes this state. The public higher education system serves the students, so it's a system for the students. Let's also make it by the students. Let's offer or our input, do work to make this system better, a system that all of us deserve. Thank you.
Robert? I will just say, like, just as a testament again to the work of this council, that the U.S. Secretary of Education's office came and visited the state in the first time, and I think they said maybe it's been 7 years. Never have I ever heard them meeting with a student council, you know, maybe the governor's office, something like that, but this was a sit-down meeting with a small group of this council, which is just unprecedented, just to really put forward that this group has made such an impact that people have noticed. Go for it, Robert. I know you've had your hand up for a while.
No worries, that's fine. I was just gonna add that if people have, I know a lot of people have doubts about, like, can I make a difference on this? Can I do that? You don't have to be a superhero. You don't have to have all the answers. You just have to represent you and the students around you. And if you're doing that, you're making a difference, whether you're in a leadership position or not. And even if you aren't in an elected position, we have project teams, we have roles there for people. There's a role for anybody that wants to be involved here. So please, please, please encourage people to put their foot forward and take that small leap and become involved, because everybody that is in a leadership position around the state has some important story to tell and something unique that they can offer. So I guess shameless plug, but I'll be quiet now.
No, it's great. And I think also you've heard a lot about the different ways to engage, and you've heard different members say that they also have served on statewide project teams like the statewide OER Advisory Council, which was a product of the resolution that got brought to the board, where there's faculty and staff and students working together. And I think we've really made a commitment over the past 5 years to make sure when the Department of Higher Education or the board are creating a task force or a working group like that strategic plan for racial equity, that student voices are at the table. And so there are also opportunities where you might sit on a group like that and inform policy. We're now having currently our chief of staff come to all of the meetings to really brief you on the upcoming board meeting agenda so you can influence that policy. So it's really important, and we have been sharing your schedule in advance and saying, does a group need to come before the students to get their input in policy? So we're really seeing you as informing the state policy that directly affects you. And I think that is a shift that's been happening over the past 5 years, but it's really goes back to making sure that like you're at the table, you're the ones influencing the things that have the greatest impact on you. All right.
And I wanted to add something. So don't feel intimidated by having a position or by being a part of SAC, because none of us are experts, especially me. I was like, oh no, I can't, I don't know nothing. And everyone was like so supportive, but that's why we're here. We're here for learning and to collaborate and to, well, for one thing, I gotta say again, we have a great leader, and Stacy's always there trying to guide you and to know, then you know, get lost. Then we always are on the same page, and we are a team, and everyone is welcome, and you don't have to have experience, you don't have to know everything, because that's why we're there, to learn and to work together toward a change. In Autumn, I can give you that word now.
Hi. Yeah, because Mari and Lorena, who's our vice president of our SGA, talked me into doing the trustee position, and I'm glad I did, because we had OER on campus, but it was not forward enough for the students to understand what it was or anything like that. So that made us kind of push them a little bit more into getting more of that into effect on campus and stuff. In fact, we're working on a questionnaire now for students and how much they paid for books this semester and stuff like this. So I'm glad that they talked me into doing the trustee position, and yeah, I find it fantastic. So if I do lose the vote in election come April, I still want to be a member of SAC, because I still can bring that information back to school. It was just a comment. Thanks.
So I want to add something, that very important point that Autumn said. We came to SAC as babies that know nothing. And then we learn about OER on the very first meeting of SAC, and we brought that to our student government, and we do report everything we learn in our meetings, and then we were able to get that moving, and in such a short time we got a committee where now are 3 students, myself, Autumn, and someone else, and we're working toward OER and to educate students to what OER is, because none of our members from the student government at the time knew what OER was. So that's the important piece, to participate and learn and bring it back to your campus to make a difference for your own students. Great point, Autumn.
Thank you.
Does anyone have any other questions or things you're interested in?
I was told that I challenged the status quo during Board of Trustee meetings, so I kind of like that position.
We like that. We call it making good trouble.
Yes, yes, absolutely.
We call it calling out people respectfully.
Yes, yes. I liked when they said that of me. I was like, yeah.
There might be a way, but why not question it sometimes?
Absolutely, absolutely. Question, if you don't question, you're not gonna get any answers anyways. So it's better to question, and there's no dumb questions.
Absolutely. Out of most of the time we viewed, is the student on a table? And that makes a distinction from the rest of the membership of a certain group. And this should not be the case. We are all the same. We have more important input, actually.
Right.
Robert,
I think, yeah.
I'm just following up on, I mean, Yorgo and Mari put it just as, better than I can, but I know I talked with a particular student trustee at a community college in the last couple of weeks. And at his board meeting, he was able to convince the other trustees not to raise the fees that year. I mean, that's the kind of influence that you can have. I mean, and you don't have to have something that grand, like I said, to be a valuable and meaningful member of this group, but it does have results. It does have an impact. So have faith in yourself and put yourself forward.
thank you. I was just looking, Stacy, the next SAC meeting is March 23rd, correct?
That's correct. And we will be sending something to all the members. We haven't sent anything yet. I'm kind of waiting until Monday to see if there's an embargo lifted on that event at the moment, but I'm hoping they'll have photos and stuff we can share back to Student Advisory Council Monday or Tuesday. So I'm hoping to send a link to register for that. I can, you get it if you have different email addresses associated with this group that might not be on Student Advisory Council directly.
Yeah, so that's something, anybody that is interested in attending the SAC meetings, they are on Zoom. So it's very convenient. I will tell you in 2013, 2014, we weren't using Zoom. I was fortunate that they were always held in Worcester, so it was not a super long drive for me. But anybody from Berkshire or from the Cape, they had a very long drive. But yeah, it's very convenient to have it on Zoom. There's no reason for people not to be able to attend, which, one of the huge benefits of COVID.
Yeah, we didn't even have the technology to do this, so it has created access, which is great, because having more students be able to attend. The commissioner has come to a few of the meetings, our new commissioner Ortega, and then we'll be inviting the commissioner and the secretary to that March 23rd meeting. The invitation is supposed to go out shortly. So he's been popping in just as part of the board discussions, just to hear from students, which is very new commissioner, just something he wanted to do. And we'll invite them both to the March 23rd meeting more formally. And maybe the commissioner will continue to come to these meetings. But again, that's a new unprecedented thing this year. We've always tried to have the commissioner come once or twice, but he just is like, oh, I'll pop in. So we're like, okay, sure.
Very nice.
It was good. We're getting feedback and they're actually taking it back to the board. So it's great.
And we hear first about policies too, like if something is going to change and something is recommended to do, we will hear about that and we can bring that to our campuses and learn what our student governments think about those policies, and then we can bring back the feedback, which that is a great relationship for the best for the students.
Yep. Well, excellent. Any other questions? I'm very happy that, we had so many people on the call and that we were able to record it. I seriously thought about this. This idea came to me back at the CCSLA conference in November. Kind of on the fly, I had asked Murray to speak about SAC, and I thought we need to let people know what SAC is. So I thank, Stacy and Mari and Yorgo who helped pull this together for me. But I'm hoping that we can, get more people involved and, get word out to your campuses.
Kathy, we gained 4 members for that day that you wanted. Yes, there was 4 members that two colleges that haven't heard about it, and one of the members is super involved, and that's just thanks to you that wanted to share with the group that day.
Well, I'm glad. I want to keep SAC alive. And like I said, it made a huge impact in my life. And I wouldn't be sitting here today talking to you if it weren't for SAC and the Board of Higher Ed. That was definitely not my career trajectory. So I will get this recording back out to, I'll probably send it to Stacy and to all of the advisors. They can send it off to students. So, but definitely if you have questions, reach out to the board members and to Stacy or myself. Thank you to everybody.
Thank you. Thank you. for
Thank
having
you.
us.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye, have a good one and stay warm. We're waiting for snow.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you, Kathy.
Yeah, well, thank you. Thank you for pulling this together.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I had to pull the other thing together, so
Yeah.
I feel like it actually worked out well. This informed the presentation even more so.
That's good. That's good.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
I definitely glad this went off.